Welcome everybody to the Forsyth County Democratic Party Forum for School Board. Today we have the at-large candidates and we have District 2 candidates with us. I would like for you to start off with a 3-minute answer this question of, please introduce yourself and tell us what prepares you to run for this seat. We're going to start in order with Donald Dunn. And then we're going to go to Richard Watts, then Linda Winikoff, Frank James, Henry McCarthy, and Valerie Brockenbrough as our at-large candidates. And then District 2 candidates will follow up with Lee Childress, Emma Norton, Adam Corey, Marie Jackson, Susan Conway, and Stephanie Malott. All right, so Donald Dunn.
Good evening. My name is Donald Dunn. Thank you, Jenny, for hosting this opportunity. I bring a vast amount of advocacy to the board. I will bring it to the board. We own and operate 2 child care centers that serve 150 kids on an average daily basis. They've been missing a lot because of the snow here lately, but we hope they come back. There's three main principles I want to focus on if elected to the board. First is to restore credibility in the leadership of the school system, as well as reinforce the mission of the board to the general public. The next one is to recruit a permanent superintendent. Until we get a permanent superintendent in, we'll just be adrift, and there's no way that we can get things accomplished to get the Forsyth County school system back on track until we have a permanent superintendent. Hiring the permanent superintendent is our primary responsibility. Once we get that person hired, it's supervising and making sure that they take out those policies and procedures that the board put in place. The final R, be re-energized. We need to re-energize our relationships with the entire community, particularly with our educators and scholars, but we also need to reinforce our financial standing, because that continues to be a drag on the system. And just recently, I see where they're going to postpone another financial committee meeting. If we were in place, we would have meetings more frequently and address those issues. I have a vast amount of experience in advocating for public education, as well as scholars and families throughout the ages. I've managed budgets as small as $100,000 up to $20, $40 million. I think I could be able to get along with those people who will be on the board with me. And I bring a lot of experience, not just in owning and operating a business, not just being a board member, but also being a community leader. I've been involved in a lot of those individual projects in the community, which make a huge difference. I have a master's advanced degree in nonprofit management, as well as a degree in Six Sigma, which gives me that operational experience to be able to run a particular project. And the project that we need to run here in Forsyth County is getting the school system back on track, get us back in that place that we need to be. We need to make sure that we're meeting the needs of not only the scholars, but the educators, and that we're being able to provide them with the kind of resources they need to carry out the mission. I'm fortunate enough to be elected just recently as the volunteer at one of the local schools and be able to address those issues that I've seen for myself over the last year and a half. So thank you again. My name is Donald Dunn, and I appreciate your vote for a school board at large.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Watts.
Good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Richard Watts. I'm currently serving on the school board, and I would like to have your vote to be reelected. Many of you know me and my career pathway, but in case you do not, I would like to just share with you a little bit about my career pathway. I've had 32 years here, all in Forsyth County as a public educator, 10 years as a middle school teacher, 3 years as an assistant principal, and 10 years as a middle school / high school principal. During my 32 years in public education, I was served or awarded Principal of the Year twice. I'm currently the only active principal who's well, not active, retired principal who's awarded the award twice in our school system. And so I retired after 32 years. Also, while I was doing that great school work, I'm also a pastor of 38 years in North Wilkesboro. And between my commitment to schools and community, I have also just recently, last year, was named actually a volunteer of the year for my work that I do that's not related to the school system, that's not related to my ministry, but as a volunteer. So with all that being said, I have a lot of experience in public education. I've walked the walk, talked the talk. Uh, I understand what it's like to be a custodian. I understand what it's like to be a cafeteria staff member. All aspects of the school I have worked it or have been in roles where I can oversee and support those works. Currently, I'm asking for re-election because, as we all know, um, I campaigned on 4 years ago on I want to bring joy into the school system, and unfortunately, that joy was taken away from us when we found out about our financial crisis. So I want to pivot and make it better, and I want to make it better through three processes: accountability, achievement, attendance, and safe schools. Called 3A's, AAAS: accountability, achievement, attendance, and safe schools. Again, the one I really want to talk about is attendance. It's more than just a graduation rate. It's also about how do we get kids into school and keep them into school. There's so many of our young people having social, emotional, that we need to figure out how to address those issues to bring them into the building. And then also with the accountability, we all know the financial piece. But again, we are working toward that with our internal audit review committee and going through all the audits we can with the state. So I feel that we're in a much better place than we were at this time last year, and we'll continue to move forward with our new superintendent, with our new external audit, with our new checks and balances that were in place that were discussed today. You'll hear soon on Friday that we're going to report to the State Department our audit findings and recommendations. So you'll see that we're moving in a good shape. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our next candidate is Linda Winikoff.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Jenny, for this opportunity. I am Linda Winikoff, running for school board at large. And what I will bring to this position is I believe I will bring a unique and important voice and perspective to the school board based on my background and experience. I'm a lifelong educator. I started my career as a demonstration teacher at the University of Pittsburgh at the Falk Laboratory School, where in addition to classroom teaching, I also was involved with teacher training. I also have a student teaching supervisory experience. I was a visiting instructor at Appalachian State in that area. But most importantly is my work here in the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools. I've worked in high-performing schools of Whitaker and Sherwood Forest, but my longest tenure was at Old Town Elementary, which has a low-performing status. At all of those schools, I witnessed skilled, dedicated, vibrant teachers, but at the end of the year, proficiency scores were different, which made me ask why. And so that has really shaped my leadership style. Instead of pointing fingers and placing blame, I look for solutions. That led me to the Children's Defense Fund Freedom Schools. We have Winston-Salem Freedom Schools here locally. I became executive director of the Old Town Freedom School, and it is summer programming. And that was a transformative experience. With that experience, I learned you can have thriving learning environments with culturally relevant literacy, mentorship, enrichment activities, parent engagement, and so that has then led me to look for how can those elements be applied school-wide. I have also looked at the North Carolina Coalition of Community Schools that is being implemented throughout the state of North Carolina in traditional public schools. I visited them in Durham County last month, and this was something I was interested in before I decided to run for school board. So there are solutions. I believe there are solutions out there that every school can become a thriving school. We have to have the will to look for them and to implement them. Regarding my campaign, I have three priorities that are related to rebuilding. Well, I have two priorities related to rebuilding trust, and that is the fiscal responsibility and policy oversight, having evaluation procedure for the superintendent, and again, to have safe, responsive, high-achieving school communities. Thank you. Jenny, you're muted.
Sorry, I did that. Just then I forgot. All right, our next candidate is Frank James. Hold on, Frank, you're also muted. We're doing it to ourselves right now.
Jenny, thank you for putting this on. And for those of you tuning in to watch this, thank you for taking the time to get to know a little bit about us and what we're for. And it's really important to be informed for this election. It's a very important election. Winston-Salem is my home. I grew up here. I graduated from Reynolds. I raised my family here. My daughter graduated from Parkland. And I have taught in the district for most of the last decade. I've been teaching middle school math for the last 12 years. So I've experienced the system as a student, as a parent, and as a teacher. I also have, before I started teaching, extensive experience in finance. I've got an MBA from Wake Forest, and I spent 20 years working in finance, 15 of which was running my own company. Before that, I worked for a mutual fund company for a couple of years, Putnam Investments, and I worked on a little municipal bond desk in Durham called Carolina Capital Markets. One of the things that is the most important thing for us to do as a board is restore trust in the system. And a lot of people have said that. It is incredibly important. We need to restore trust with the public. We need to restore trust with each other. And we need to restore trust with the employees because it is not in good shape right now. One of the things we need to do financially is we need to demand regular monthly financial reports, like budget to actual reports, so we can see if there is a problem when it's happening, at least within a few weeks of when it is happening, and take corrective action then. We can't wait 4 or 5 months at several $1 million a month and end up in the problem that we've got now. We need good information and we need it quickly. All of that information should be shared with the public. It should be on the website. We also need to refocus our schools on academics. I've said this in a few meetings, and some people are stunned by it, but a third of the students I taught in 7th grade a couple of years ago were at a kindergarten level for math and reading, and that's unacceptable. I think we've lost our way, and we need to get refocused on what is the primary mission of a school district, which is educating our children. We also need to cultivate the positive experience and positive feelings about the district and make it an asset for our community. One of the things we need to do is we need to make it a better place to work for our teachers. I'm currently in Davidson County. We have 7 hours a week to plan. In Forsyth, I was lucky if I'd get an hour and a half. And it just, that alone, plus the working environment as far as behavior issues, have just made it a difficult place to work. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, our next candidate will be Valerie Brockenbrough.
I'm ready.
All right, thank you.
So my name is Valerie Brockenbrough, and I'm running for school board at large. A little bit of background about me. As you can hear, I have an accent. I was born in France and moved to the US in 1994. I was supposed to stay 6 months, and 32 years later, I'm still here. I became a natural citizen in 2006, and we moved to Winston-Salem with my husband in 2003. I'm a successful small business owner, and we have raised 3 kids here in Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools. So we have 2 kids that already graduated from Forsyth County Schools, one from Atkins and one from Reynolds. And we still have a daughter in high school. She's a senior at Reynolds High School. I am a proud public school mom. Our 3 kids received an excellent education in Forsyth County. And one of the reasons why I'm running is because I want to make sure that every student has access to a great education. So in 2018, I was a parent at the downtown school, and I became the PTA president. I've been involved I've been advocating for public school for a few years now. I drove to Raleigh to advocate for more funding and met with our legislators. I also ran for office in 2024. I ran for county commissioner. In part, my goal was to focus on education as a county commissioner. And I volunteer at Connaught Middle Schools as part of a group called Community for Public Schools. We are going through extremely challenging times in our district, but I believe that I have great hope and expectation for the district. So people need to know, people don't really know what school board members do. So I'm just going to go through that so people know. So their first responsibility is to hire and evaluate the superintendent. They need to act as good steward in balancing the budget. They set educational goals and policies, and they follow the curriculum outlined by the North Carolina Department of Instruction and CDPI. What they don't do is that they do not manage the day-to-day operations. They do not make decisions as individuals. There's 9 school board members, and you need a majority of 5 votes. And they have no taxing authority. So the budget is based on money allocated by the state, the federal government, and Forsyth County schools. So my 3 priorities are strong leadership and accountability, a student-centered growth, and fair funding. We need to change, and we need to get more funding from the state. I think that's a crucial part. We need to have school board members that advocate for our schools, to the community, to our state, to the federal government. We need strong advocates at the school board level. Thank you.
All right. Hello, guys. My name is Lee Childers. I'm running for Board of Education District 2. A little about myself. I'm a 19-year educator here in the district, exceptional children or special education. I'm a 14-year coach and athletic director, and I'm a 10-year executive board member for the Forsyth County Association of Educators, which is our local public school union. 6 months ago, this was not my plan. I wanted to advocate and be that person. But then 6 months, a lot has happened in 6 months. We have lost so many of our staff, so many role models for our kids, and I just couldn't sit on the sidelines anymore. My priorities are first and foremost to be student and staff centered. We have to start there. I'm an EC advocate, I'm an EC teacher, and our EC department has been decimated in the last few months. Third is financial oversight and transparency. We have to be sure that we know what we're doing with the money that is given to us. We have to be good public stewards of our dollar. Fourth is accountability. We have to make sure that we're being accountable to the money that is given to us, and we're also being transparent. We can no longer have budget transfer after budget transfer and not have a discussion for the public to hear. Fifth is a seat at the table. So this is new, but this is where everyday workers finally get a chance to have their voice heard. Our morale is so low in this district right now. We need to make sure that we are involving our workers, our teachers, our instructional assistants, our bus drivers, our secretaries, and give them a voice and a seat at the table through hopefully a policy. Decisions right now are being made by our district leadership, which is understandable. But a lot of times we are not heard. The staff is not heard. And that has caused morale to be so low, in addition to the reduction in force. And the sixth thing that I would like to do is work on stronger funding for public education. We are currently 50 out of 50 states. That has to change. We have to talk with our county. We also have to talk and go to Raleigh. We can no longer sit on the sidelines and wait because the time is now. Our public school system is struggling mightily. And yes, there was a lot of financial mismanagement, but we also have to advocate for more. My name is Lee Childers. I'm running for District 2, and I appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next candidate is Emma Norton.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me, Jenny, and everyone watching at home. I am running in District 2 as well for school board. Why am I here? I think I'm a plugged-in millennial. I got the algorithm, the social media, and I could see our district is struggling. And I just thought about Mr. Rogers saying, look for the helpers, and I wanted to be a helper. And it just seems like we are asking the teachers to do a lot. We're asking the parents to do a lot. So I just wanted to come in and just give me a hand on deck. Tell me where you need me, what I can do to fight for you, to make the public school education as good as it was when I was in public school, because I know we can get there because we were there before. I graduated from one of the top 100 schools in the nation when I graduated, and it wasn't in Forsyth County, but we have the teachers here, and I know we can make it happen if we just give them the time and the support that they need to do the things to make our schools succeed. And I would really I think it's important coming from like a corporate background. I have to get 16 signatures, it feels like, to buy a paper clip. So I know that you can make a balanced budget and get all this, like it shouldn't have gotten this bad before we noticed. I definitely agree with a lot of points other people have brought up here today, which means I'm happy to work. Like we have so many great ideas coming from the candidates on the Democratic Party side that I'm happy to work with any of them to make it happen, because I don't, and like Valerie had said, you don't run school board by yourself. There's going to be 9 people out there, and it's important for us to have 9 people that will work together, which is something that we have been lacking in recent months. I know a lot of people are stressed out because of the budget and a lot of tempers are flaring. So I think it's important that we kind of get some new ideas in there to kind of work together to a solution to this problem. I definitely am also coming in being a voice for kind of against the culture wars that are starting to come up in school boards with banning books, when obviously the problem is not the books, it's the fact that some of the kids can't even read in general. So I definitely think it's important for us to go back and strengthen our academics and get, again, as Lee stated, get more funding back into public schools because we need it out there. And again, getting back to fixing this reduction in force that we've kind of ruined the district with by taking all these countless amazing teachers we have and just kicking them out when we really need to get more funding. So again, I'm running for District 2, and I appreciate you tuning in today. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Our next candidate is Adam Corey.
Hi, everyone. My name is Adam. I'm a lifelong North Carolinian and a proud product of public schools. Public education helped make me who I am, from kindergarten at Old Town Elementary School to West Forsyth through earning a PharmD at the UNC Eshelman School of Pharmacy. I believe fiercely in protecting public schools. I've taught in these public schools, coached football and wrestling, and I even drove those little white activity buses. Then I became a pharmacist and a father with 4 kids just starting their K-12 journey. All of those experiences, the classes, the games, the matches, the bus rides, the patients, the lectures, and the lullabies helped shape me into the man that I am today and created my personal politics. I believe in the power of public schools to help all of our students, the 75% of Forsyth County kids who come to our schools to shape our community, to build a resilient economy. We have seen trust in our school system shatter over the last year, but it's been crumbling for some time now. And we can rebuild that trust with open transparency, accountability, and clear leadership. And I think we see too many headlines about the boardroom, and we should be getting back to focusing on the classroom. We should empower those teachers to teach by giving them the resources that they need, protecting their planning time, and showing our support from leadership. We can help their mission by having a real code of conduct, not to punish kids, but to limit the chaos and distraction so that kids can learn and feel safe in our schools. Finally, we need to rebuild Winston-Salem County schools together, which requires community and business involvement. The All In for Our Schools campaign is a great start, but we can do more with volunteers and funding for clubs and other extracurriculars beyond sports, which is where most money traditionally goes. If you want to know anything about me, know that I will put the needs of students and teachers first, probably tell a few bad jokes, but that's just who I am. I'm Adam Corey, and I would be honored to be considered with your vote for the March 3rd primary.
Thank you so much. Our next candidate, Marie Jackson.
Hi, everyone. Hope everyone can hear me. Hope everyone's staying warm out there. Okay. Really quickly, why I'm here, I'm a mother of 2 public school kids. I've got 2 daughters, one in middle school, one in high school. So every decision the board makes impacts my family directly. So that's number 1. I've got the kids in front of mind. Every question or every obstacle I face, the question I ask myself is, how does this serve the kids? That's my priority. But in addition to being a parent and a wife, I'm also a 17-year veteran, if you will, of corporate America. The past 10 of those 17 years, I've been working as a project manager for various levels of, C-suites, lower in the food chain with middle management. I've worked with Fortune 500 companies that you might know that have major multi-million, hundreds of $1 million budgets, and smaller companies as well, middle market, small, medium business. Part of that job is to monitor the budget, to make sure everyone's accountable for the budget and that everybody understands. Not everyone's a CFO. We've got people from different backgrounds. Everyone needs to understand where the money is, because that funds all the good and fun things you guys have already talked about. Paying teachers more, making sure they've got plenty of time, make sure we've got more field trips, more fun stuff, everything to keep people engaged all comes from the budget and what's the initiatives for the year. I'm familiar with monthly, quarterly, and half-year reviews and how different corporations address the risks as they come up, because there's always going to be a risk. There's always going to be problems. It's how do you govern those, communicate those, pivot, and address those. And that's what I'm hoping to bring to the school board. Results and data are big for me. So I want to make sure that whatever we decide to do, whatever the board decides to do collectively, there's a way to measure success. There's a way to come back and say, yes, this is working, or no, this is not working, and how do we pivot from there? In addition to budget oversight, there's also timeline. There's only so many years, so many days, so many hours. So knowing what's achievable is something that we need to keep in front of our minds as well. So using data and metrics is really important to me. Choosing what is best for our kids. How does this serve our children? But really, ultimately, my overall goal is trust, because there's been a lot of broken trust. I feel like there's multiple ways we can get there and rebuild trust. Number 1, with financial governance and oversight and transparency. Number 2, safety and code of conduct. We need to look at the metrics, and we need to pull any levers we have, locally or at the state level. And number 3, retainment, not just retainment of students and families, which is very important for the bank, right, for the budget, but also for teachers and staff. We've got so many great people that are working for us that there's a disservice that we're giving to them right now by not prioritizing their voices and what they need to see change. So ultimately, does this serve the kids? That's my question at the end of the day. I have a lot on my plate, but I'm willing to move things around, and I hope to earn your trust and your vote for School Board District 2. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Our next candidate is Susan Conway.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity to speak with our voters. I'm Susan Conway, running in District 2 for the school board. I'm what some might call a professional volunteer. Since my oldest child entered the school system in 2014, I've been heavily involved in the PTA. I've served 4 terms as president and currently hold that position at Mount Tabor High. I've spent thousands of hours in multiple schools working alongside teachers and admin to strengthen relationships with families. One of the more rewarding volunteer experiences came as a reading tutor through EWS, which is now Love Literacy. Helping a struggling reader will change how you view everything. This experience drove my passion for early literacy. My volunteerism extended to my neighborhood HOA, where I've served as a director for 15 years. I was a member of the Finance and Planning Committee, where we developed an annual and long-term budget. Having experience on a board is important to ensure a cooperative and well-functioning board. I bring that experience to the school board. I will push for transparent and responsible budgeting that protects kids and classrooms first. I will look for creative ways to partner with community organizations to increase resources and lean on legislatures to advocate for public education. And I'll fight for early literacy and targeted student support. I'll ask hard questions, listen carefully, and make decisions rooted in data, not politics. Susan Conway, asking for your vote for District 2. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our final candidate introduction is from Stephanie Malat.
Hi there. Sorry about our little friend who joined us for a second. My name is Stephanie Malat. I'm running for District 2. I bring a combination of professional experience, lived experience, and deep community involvement. I spent 12 years as an educator teaching first in South Korea and then in Croatia, where I also owned and operated a language school. In that role, it wasn't just teaching. I was responsible for staffing, payroll, compliance, budgeting, enrollment, curriculum, and family communication. Please forgive me, I'm reading off the list. That experience taught me how critical realistic planning and accountability are, because decisions made at the top ripple outward for years. I was born in New Jersey, raised in California, and I'm a dual citizen who spent half my life in California and the other half in Croatia before moving to North Carolina 2.5 years ago. Similar to Valerie, I only intended to stay in Croatia for about a year, fell in love, started a school, and ended up staying for far longer than anticipated. As a transplant, learning a school system that's very different from what I was used to has been eye-opening. It's reinforced for me the importance of leadership that asks clear questions and doesn't assume every family already knows how the system works. I'm also a parent in the WSFCS and an active school volunteer and substitute teacher, well, former substitute teacher. When we were deciding where to send our child, we seriously considered a private Montessori option, but ultimately chose public school because we believe in investing in our local community and the promise of a strong public education. That choice for us was very intentional. As a parent of a twice exceptional child, I've learned that one-size-fits-all policies don't create fairness, they create gaps. When decisions are made, especially around budgets and staffing, the question I always come back to is, who does this benefit and who does this leave out? During the budget crisis, EC services were among the most severely impacted by the reduction in force. And for families like mine, those weren't abstract numbers. They were personal consequences. That experience made the need for transparency, realistic forecasting, and accountability very, very real. My general goals for the board are straightforward. First, to restore trust through transparency and fiscal accountability. Second, to protect and support educators by prioritizing staffing, fair compensation, and sustainable workloads, including planning periods. And third, to ensure decisions are truly student-centered with equity as a guiding principle, so that every student gets what they need to succeed. I'm not interested in politics and grandstanding. I'm just a mom who cares about governing thoughtfully, listening carefully, and working with others to move forward in a way that serves our students, staff, and earns back public confidence. Thank you for this opportunity. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. We are then going to go backwards in our order with a 2-minute timer for the next question. So I'm going to set up our timer. And so Stephanie, you're going to be up, followed by Susan, Marie, et cetera, et cetera. I will let you know if we get out of order a little bit, but here's the question. There seems to be disconnect/frustrations between central office and the school site staff. What are some steps that you would recommend to bridge that gap?
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Okay. Yeah, the frustration is real. As a volunteer who's in the schools, if not daily, at least weekly, I hear about it from teachers and frustrations that are there, and it didn't come out of nowhere. Decisions are often made centrally without feedback from the people whom it impacts. This is something we need to pay attention to, and I think Lee brought up a great point that everyone needs a seat at the table who has a vested interest in this. And that's not just teachers, that's support staff, that's parents, that's everyone who's involved in the day-to-day running. So I think we have to start by treating communication as more of a two-way system, not a broadcast. It can't come from one place and that be the rule. We have to really make sure that everyone has an opportunity to get involved and share. We also saw this as parents when the survey went out about the school calendar. And it was, from what I had seen and heard, an overwhelming majority to go one way. And that felt very ignored by the board by voting a different way. We have to be honest about capacity when schools are understaffed. New initiatives or requirements, especially the paperwork heavy ones, they land as stress and not support. So the people making these decisions need to have input from others as to how this will impact their day-to-day and their ability to best serve our students.
Thank you so much. Susan.
So I'll echo some of what she said with bringing parties to the table and letting those teachers and staff have a voice in decisions that are made. I think there's a perception that the people at the central office don't do a lot or nearly as much as the folks who are in the schools. So there's been some talk and proposals from some folks that I've heard of having those central office staff members perhaps fill voids in schools. I know at Tabor, we lost our data manager, our second secretary. And so we're short staffed. We have nobody at the front office besides the financial secretary. And she has a job to do that doesn't include, sitting at the front desk all day. So maybe we bring some of those folks who sit behind a computer all day. They could come out and help in the schools. I'm not proposing that they do that all the time, but perhaps they come out and work 1 or 2 days a week to fill those voids in the schools that are desperately needed. Again, education is our focus, and we have to focus on the schools. That has to be our primary focus. And whatever it takes from central office to help staff those shortages, whether it be substitutes, if the school doesn't have a substitute, there's probably somebody at the central office that could fill in that day. So I think there's got to be, some give by the central office staff to help fill these voids in the schools, because there's desperately a need for extra hands on deck.
Thank you so much. Next, Marie.
So in the project world, we consider everyone who has ownership in the project, who's a decision maker, a stakeholder. And we need to start treating the teachers, the staff as stakeholders, and the parents as stakeholders, which means we don't proceed with a decision until all stakeholders have a say. So I would, to really push that culture, there's various tools we could use. We can, we need to meet some of these people where they are. There's a lot of parents who can't come to meetings, but they, share their concerns online. There's a lot of teachers who can't come to meetings, but they also, talk to each other. They've got a lot on their plate as far as data and turning in paperwork. So there's tools out there that we could use to sweep the data, pull in all, the metrics and the noise out there. We can also send out text messages to teachers so that they can respond on certain pinpointed topics, or have surveys, or have other ways to collect their feedback. But ultimately, we need to have feedback from all stakeholders on every decision. And if that means a decision comes up during a meeting, but we don't have appropriate representation from one of those stakeholders, we pause, we take a moment, we add it to our what I call parking lot, and we come back to it. And along with all of that, a transparent mode of communication and showing what has been decided is also necessary. again, I know that school systems are not a project, not a corporate project, but there's a lot of ways that we can use tools and systems and requirements in the same way. And I think treating teachers and families as very important stakeholders, they run the show, right? They are the boots on the ground, so their voices are most important, is critical. And we can't proceed without taking that in and measuring the data. What kind of data do we get from them? And then making decisions in their best interest. That's it.
Thank you. Okay, Adam.
All right, so this sounds a lot like what happens a lot of times in schools and in business, and the idea that management doesn't listen to the people who are actually doing the work, and that happens, like I said, pretty much everywhere. There's a lot of broadcasting decisions, but not a lot of listening or collaboration with the people who actually have to do the job. And I don't think anyone in central office is trying to do that. But I think a lot of times it gets forgotten what it's like being on the ground when you move into the central office. And we know that a lot of well-intentioned proposals and plans kind of fall apart when they actually hit the classroom. Seen that in hospital settings of things that weren't really thought all the way through before they get to the floor and make us have to try and do them. And we try and piece things back together with what we have, trying to keep management and leadership happy, and that's what teachers are trying to do as well. So I think a lot of it is a lack of listening. I think working on our collaboration with the teachers and the other staff, making sure that their voices are heard. We do lots of surveys, but sometimes our surveys aren't listened to, as with the school board, with the school calendar that we just had. That was quite embarrassing. But listening to what the teachers and staff have to say with every decision would be a major point of bringing that collection back together. I think we could do better with surveys or forums that those people can come and share their thoughts, and do that before a major proposal is being sent into the classroom. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Emma.
Hi, so I agree that we definitely need to listen to the feedback. I am personally a big fan of spreadsheets, but I don't know, that would probably get very big very fast. But I do know that we also have the Forsyth County Area Association of Educators that are, I think they have already, and most good teachers do, compiled a giant binder of things that we could be doing better. And I think one of the first steps we need to do is look at them and see what they have brought to the table for us to look at, as well as Marie pointed out, the stakeholders of the parents and even students. And I know that Linda had mentioned earlier, she's worked with a lot of schools that have a lot of great things going on. So it's not all bad. Like, we could also take the feedback of a lot of things that are working at certain points in the district and use it at other schools to help them as well. So I know that overall we kind of have a doom and gloom bubble, but we do, I think, have a lot of bright spots in the district. And I'd like to make sure that we can spread the bright spots around just as much as focusing on all the bad. So, but I would definitely, again, look at getting feedback from the teachers, as well as sending the central office into the schools firsthand as well on the volunteer basis, like Susan had mentioned. So just kind of I feel like it will go a long way if people actually feel like we're listening versus yelling into the void, which nobody is a big fan of. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, next is Lee.
All right. So I kind of mentioned this earlier, a seat at the table. I think I've seen firsthand what's happened and the frustration in our schools. But I think we also need to not only build and have that seat at the table for our workers in schools, but also I think people don't understand what's all involved at central office. Yes, there is the district leadership, but I'm technically a central office employee. I am an EC hospital homebound teacher. I work in a facility. But this year, because of everything that's happened, I now am driving 300 to 400 miles a week all over the county and going into people's homes as well with no help. They have taken the assistant. People, because all we hear is central office is bad. Yes, there's a lot that needs to change at central office. There's no doubt in my mind. But they have stretched us so thin, the ones that are in the trenches, that are in central office, that are going into classrooms, that are doing things, we're having a really hard time being effective. So I think we need to make sure we understand what roles are actually at central office and what school roles, and the folks in the school can understand how that is being affected. Because if we don't have the support of some of these things, we're not going to be able to do what we need to do in the schools. Now, that being said, again, district leadership is a huge thing and they make all these decisions. We have to involve our people in the schools. We have to involve not only our teachers, but we have to involve everyone that works in the building to come together to make decisions. Trust is broken. It has to be restored. This is one way to do it. We are working together. That's how trust will begin to be restored in our district. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we're going to go to our at-large candidates, started with Valerie Brockenbrow.
All right. Yes, I think there is a lot of frustration. There's a toxic relationship right now between the central office and the teachers and the staff, and that really needs to be looked into. One good thing that is just was decided at the last committee meeting is that they're going to have a central office audit generated. That's going to look at what the positions are in central office, what's working, what's needed, and we need to see an organigram of all the position in central office. Like Lee said, not everybody in central office is the C-suite. There's just a lot of people that work in central office that work in our schools, and central office is like the corporate side of the school system. They manage a $700 million budget. So we need a strong, finance department. We need a strong payroll department. There's a lot of things that comes into, central office, and getting to understand what's going on at central office with transparency and explaining what each position does, I think would help a lot with this frustration on the ground that central office is bloated, is big, but we don't really know at this point. So I think the audit should be a priority for the current superintendent, and I think that will help a lot once that's done. And having a seat at the table for the teachers, I think, is crucial for central office and the teachers and the staff and FCAE to have conversation and be part of the decision when big decisions are made. If the teachers and staff are part of those decisions, it's the morale. It will be so much better for everybody. And my background from France, we have a lot of union and organized labor, and it works. It works. People like it. And that's it.
Okay, thank you so much. Our next candidate speaking will be Frank.
Okay, this is a great question. There definitely is a disconnect right now. The feeling in the school-facing staff is that there was no shared pain with the RIFs, that student-facing staff took all of it. And that's probably not entirely true, but it's certainly the perception out there. Something that you need to be able to do here is you don't want to ask people's opinion if you're not going to listen to it, because that makes people just feel like completely unheard and like you don't even care and you wasted their time. So if we're going to ask, we need to make sure that there's a chance we're going to do what they say. And go back to the calendar. I go back to iReady a couple of years ago where we were going to get rid of it entirely. And then at the last minute, it was at least partially put back into place when the vast majority of teachers felt like it was not a good idea. Susan and Emma kind of stole my thunder on this. I think we need central office employees in the schools, remembering why we are all here, and seeing what things are really like to stay grounded. I'm going to commend Mr. Watts for volunteering and doing that. But I would like to see all central office employees spend a day a month doing something in the schools for at least a few hours. I think that would be a very good way to stay connected and remember what the ultimate mission is here. I don't want to see more meetings to get the feedback. I do think it needs to be happening through surveys. Teachers and other employees they don't need more meetings. So it needs to be done virtually, whatever it is. I like the idea of going through FCAE. Large percentage of our staff are members, and they can voice what is needed as well. FCAE knows what we need. We need to, I go back to the shared pain. We need to make sure that if there are more risks in the future, they are shared evenly. And I'm going to stop there. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Our next candidate, Linda Winikoff.
Yeah, I was also at the meeting where Valerie was. It was a budget workshop, and where it was announced, or Dr. Phipps recommended that an audit be done of central office to see exactly who's doing what and if modifications or changes are necessary. The board at the time seemed responsive to it, so I do hope. I mean, I didn't hear a final word about it, but I do hope, I agree, that's number one. There needs to be an audit of central office. I've been the teacher in the classroom who's gotten the mandate, that came down and that you didn't have any say in. There was a reading curriculum once that happened with. And it's you feel powerless. So I do know that feeling. I think I think we need to ask what's the impact if something comes in, what's the impact on the students? I think with the EC, the critical question, as I've read about it, should have been, are the IEPs going to be able to be implemented with fidelity with these cuts? Because that's statutory, making sure IEPs are implemented, rather than the class table that they had, which I believe is more advisory from NCDPI, whereas IEPs are statutory. So, what's the impact going to be on the children and on the teachers if we do these cuts? I believe cut should be the very, very last option to be considered, and to see everything else that's in a budget. The budget's massive. I believe in payroll. I know teachers complain about payroll errors that needs to be addressed. And I'll just end with this: the meet and confer, FCAE having a policy, helping to create a policy with FCAE to have meet and confer. Durham County has done it. I think they're the first county that's done it in North Carolina. And I think as a school board, we should be supportive of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Richard.
Good evening, everyone. Again, I want to look at schools have a strong school improvement team, get things done, and all stakeholders come to the table, where your certified teachers, classified staff, your parents, your business community, your students, they come together to work together to help make that school stronger. And again, when you look at the research, schools have strong improvement teams, get things done, make things better. I would like to suggest we take that school improvement team model and use it as a district model. We already have zones, we already have pockets in place. We can bring them together. Now, the question is, how do you bring them together? Again, during the school day, we create funding sources like we do for other things during the school day. We pay the stipend, we pay whomever to come during the school day, and that does not work out for some. Every school has staff meetings before school or after school. Again, the key is to gather the input from all stakeholders and listen to all stakeholders in the decision-making process. If we can do that well as a large district, surveys are great, online is great, but sometimes we've got to go where the people are. we've got to go into the schools and talk to people and actively listen to their concerns and hear their suggestions. As a principal, oftentimes the best suggestions did not come from me. It came from the people who are doing the work. So we've got to listen to those who are doing the work and help them with the process. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now we're going to be hearing from Donald Dunn.
Thank you. Everyone I agree with a lot of the information that's already been shared. We need to listen to all the stakeholders. The first thing I think we need to do is get a permanent superintendent in, and we need to reinforce with him or her that it's not them and us. It's not central office in the schools. It's we. And we are all responsible for the final outcome of how our students and our educators are feeling and are performing in the classrooms, and the district and the central office is performing overall. Everybody has a stake. Everybody needs to have a voice. There's no such thing as we need to get everybody out of their silos, and we all need to start pulling on the same rope in the same direction, because that's the only way we're going to be able to improve our district. For a long time, Forsyth County was one of those districts that other school systems throughout the country was gauging themselves against. I do believe deep down inside that we can get back to that point, but it's going to take teamwork. And there's no such thing as I and team, but it's important that all the team members know the responsibility. So restoring the mission of what we're here to do, regardless of your role and responsibility in the district, that we need to pull everybody going in the same direction. Those stakeholders who invest in the big picture make all the difference. And the people on the front line know better than anybody else what's going on. So there's no such thing as someone shoot up a flare and that's the direction we're moving. We all need to pull on the same rope in the same direction to get the outcome at the end. Because it's hard for me to believe that teachers alone are the reason why our kids are not performing. We all need to be part of it. And it's also bringing in parents and the community members so they'll be able to give their input as well.
Thank you so much. Okay, our next question, we're going to be starting with at large with Mr. Dunn. I'm going to put the question in the chat so you all can follow along without having to be read again to you. The question is, what is one hard decision you believe this board must be willing to make in the next 2 years to set up our district for success?
Can you repeat it again, Jenny? I'm sorry.
What is one hard decision you believe this board must be willing to make in the next 2 years to set up our district for greater success?
Thank you. I think we need to look at the review that's going to be performed, but not only in the central office, but across the entire districts, because I'm concerned that we may have too many facilities for the number of children that we're currently served, then that we're able to match our resources and maximize our efforts into achieve the overall goal of educating and making our community much better overall. The huge thing about that review, there's some schools that we may need to close. There's some staff members we may need to shift, some scholars that we need to reassign to different schools. But we won't know that until we get that information back. So I don't think we're at the bottom of our problem, but I think we're moving in that direction. And until we get all the information before we make a snap decision about what we're going to do, we need to gather more data. But it's a matter of putting the right resources in the right places with the right people managing those resources. And it's very simple for us to do, but it's going to be a hard decision. And I've been sharing with people as I'm doing meet and greets. The board's going to make a lot of hard decisions between now and using your question in the next 2 years to get us back where we need to be. But everybody needs to be ready for it. There's going to be some pain, but some of the pain is going to end up with a huge gain at the end, that we're all doing the right thing for the right people. And the right people are the scholars, the educators, and the community members. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, next is Richard.
Yes, I think I have two. One, the hardest decision we'll have to do is to stay within our fiscal means of a budget and still meet the many demands of our stakeholders. There are a lot of things that we are saying we need and we need and we do need them, but how do we meet those needs within our limitation of our budget? So unless the budget increases from Raleigh and from other sources, we're gonna make some tough decisions with a limited budget. That's number one. Number two, we're also going to have to make tough decisions with how do we maintain our buildings and facilities. We have over $1 billion worth of needs in our facilities and maintenance and upkeep. There's no way we can keep that going unless we're able to go to our county commissioners, go to our state legislature, say, hey, this is what our needs are. We have buildings that are literally falling apart. And if we don't do something about these buildings, we're in trouble. So that's going to require some hard decisions to make about how we maintain our buildings and our programs with limited maintenance facility budget.
Thank you. Linda.
Yeah, the key words to me in that question are the last ones, greater success. And that I automatically go to the achievement gap. Anyone who knows me knows that it is something that I believe is our biggest challenge in this district. It is significant and it is persistent. I mean, I was just looking, I pulled from the data dashboard and I was looking at it. And if you look at either economically disadvantaged, or if you do it that way, or race, it's still pretty staggering what our achievement gap is. So how do we approach it? I think is going to be one of the biggest questions that needs to be looked at with schools. There are, like I've mentioned before, there are models out there, but that might involve, funding for certain schools. It's not a one size fits all solution. So how is the district going to allocate funding so that all schools will be thriving schools, and what will that look like? We have thriving schools in this county, and of course they'll be, that they need to be maintained. And someone talks about modeling and what's working. Why does this school work so well? What are the elements? What do we need to do to get those elements at all schools or at other schools, or see what's working? So I just think how that funding's going to work as we're trying to make all schools safe and responsive and high achieving. Funding wise, what's that going to look like? And somebody mentioned the chronic absenteeism. That's huge. And so what do we do to want, for the children to come to school so that they can learn and be a welcoming community? Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, Frank.
Okay, I'm going to follow Richard and give you two things as well. I do think there's a strong possibility we'll need to close some schools going forward, and that is always an incredibly difficult decision as far as what schools should be closed. No one wants to lose their neighborhood school, and we need to make sure we understand exactly what the consequences will be for the students affected, what their other options are if we have to do that. The other thing that I think is going to be very difficult is we need to revise the code of conduct, character, and support. And I think a lot of people agree that it needs to be revised, but how it is going to be revised is going to be, I think, unfortunately, very contentious. My personal opinion is we need to make sure we are focusing on the academics, closing the achievement gap, like Linda said. I think one of the biggest problems that we have in the district right now is uneven learning environments. And the learning environments at some schools are just incredibly different. And we even within a school, within different classrooms, accelerated versus general ed classrooms, they're very different. And so that would be my desire for changing the code of conduct, character, and support. But you have to convince other people to go along. And I do think that's going to be a contentious process. Thank you.
Thank you. Valerie.
So I think the hardest decision that the school system is going to have to make is closing schools. We have a lot of under-enrolled schools. We had a drop of 7.6% of students in the last 10 years. It's going to go down again because of the way things are going with the competition from schools, and the birth rate also is going down. But I believe this is also an opportunity. When we put the closing of schools and the $1 billion in needs for facilities, we need to look at those two things and say, okay, can we save money? The county commissioner is responsible for maintaining and building schools. That's where the money comes from, unless there is a state bond for schools, but that doesn't look like it's going to happen. So there's this $1 billion need, and the next school bond is slated for 2028, and it could be around $300 million. And so there's a huge gap. And one idea that I have, and that I've been thinking about, is when we try to compete with private schools, and we want to bring parents back to our schools. What if we combined elementary and middle schools together in one building? Some schools already do that, like the downtown school. They have an elementary school and middle school together. I think that will help with transportation. There's just a lot of private schools have K through 8. People take their kids out of middle schools because they're worried about, middle schools. So I think starting to look at different ideas of how we can mitigate those closing to make it an opportunity instead of hard decisions.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go to our District 2 candidates, and we're going to start with Lee.
All right. I'm going to echo what a lot of people have already said. Our enrollment is declining, and it's terrible, but it's the truth. We're losing kids to private schools and charter schools, and eventually we're going to have to be fiscally responsible, and we're going to have to look at consolidating buildings. Now, I think we have to be very intentional when we do that. I think we have to look and talk to the community. We have to make sure that we are making sure everybody is on board and understanding the processes of this. It's never an easy decision. Our community schools have pride, especially in all over, but especially in eastern and northern parts of the county. They have pride, and we have to be very intentional with that. I also think we're going to have to think about making sure that we're going to have to ask for more. And I know it sounds like a hard decision, but right now the school board, the county commissioner board, and the legislators all operate separately. We have to start working together and building relationships with each other, because if we do not do that, we are never going to get what we need. We are never going to get what we need. We sit quietly by. We have to advocate for more for our schools. And if we do not start doing that, we're never going to get what we need for the kids, the resources, our teachers. Compensation has not gone up. We are actually losing money this year because of higher health premiums and no budget. We have got to do better at asking. But yeah, the big thing is looking at consolidating schools, but making sure that each child has a place to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Emma.
So I'm just going to go out on a limb and say it doesn't sound like we're going to be making any easy decisions in the next 2 years, but I definitely agree that telling somebody that they have to switch schools is never going to be a fun thing that you have to tell someone, but it does sound like we would get better if we figured this out. But again, we have to make sure that we have feedback from everybody before we make that, as well as what Frank had said about the code of conduct. I know Adam is going to go on about that, so I won't steal his thunder, but just the fact that I also think coming from the outside, no decision you make is going to make 100% of everyone happy, and you just kind of have to get used to the fact that somebody is not going to be happy with what the decision you've made. And but also you can't just not make decisions because of that. And I know we've had some things just not happen. Sorry if you guys hear my cat. But yeah, so because of that, I just want to make sure that I agree with everybody else about the school closings being the most difficult decision we're probably going to face. I would also personally love to revisit the decision we made with Brunson Elementary. I just think that was probably not the greatest decision we've ever made as a district, and I think it's not in the best interest of the students' future to do that. So thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Our next candidate, Adam.
All right, hello. So, yeah, I think we're going to be making quite a few hard decisions over the next, 2 to 4 years, depending on how long you stay in. And I think a lot of these decisions are going to come from that $46 million deficit. That's going to be haunting us for some time as we try and clean up that mess and continue to try and live within our means and pay off what we have to pay off. One of those things that'll help with that is trying to pick a superintendent that's going to be here for a long term and things like that. The other thing, coupled with that, with less money, is going to be falling enrollment, as many have said. And so we'll have to look at, do we have too many schools? And which ones should we be doing? Knowing that those decisions means redistricting families, and redistricting families means changes in transportation plans. It means changes in home values and things like that. So being able to figure out what are the impacts of types of decisions is going to be really important. And I think, the real issue is not what decisions are being made, but how those decisions are made. I think we have to be able to show that we were transparent and open about what decisions and what information went into those decisions, knowing that decisions were made based on data, based on things that have been proven to work in other places. And we also have to make sure that people know that we're making decisions in the best interests of the students and the teachers and the staff. And I think when you can prove how you're making your decisions and show the work, right? Like Barack Obama would say, get caught trying, right? Make sure that people see you working to try and make things better. And it doesn't matter what hard decision you have to face and whether people agree with it. If they know you're trying and looking out in the best interest of the community and the families and the teachers, they can accept lots of tough, difficult decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Marie.
So I think I want to repeat and just echo what most of you have said. I foresee the budget being the most complex source of a lot of difficult decisions. And I don't think it's going to be a one-time thing. I think it's going to be a recurring practice of let's prioritize what we can. Let's look at the data. And there's a lot of great ideas that people here are tossing out, that others have tossed out, a lot of things that people want to get behind. But there will come a day when we have to look at the reality. Here's your good idea. Here's how it panned out. What did we learn from it? Good, bad, indifferent. And we'll have to pivot. I think those reoccurring pivot decisions and reprioritizing is going to hurt in some cases, especially if things don't work. But we'll only get better. We'll only improve with every decision point. I see it all the time in corporate world where the push is to get back in the black. We don't want to get away from the red. We've tried for 30 or 6 months on this initiative, and it's not doing what we need to do. Again, pivot. So it's not going to be a one-time thing. It's going to be a reoccurring face the reality. It's going to hurt. And a lot of those decisions are going to leave gaps. And that's the second part of it. Most of you have mentioned is, okay, if we abandon or can't proceed with something, how do we address the gaps? So there's still hard decisions that don't go away just because the funding isn't there this 6 months. So it's going to be a lot. I think the hardest decision for all of us is just the amount of work that's going to come towards us. Even if we can't resolve the problem today, what can we do? What extra work can we put in? What other relationships can we build to get there? Even if it's not this month, this 6 months, this initiative, maybe it's next year. That's my take on it.
Thank you. Our next candidate will be Susan.
So yes, it sounds like we all agree that there's going to be hard decisions, and a lot of them are going to be centered around what schools need to be closed. We have to be financially responsible. We owe that to our taxpayers and our community. That's gonna happen when we have a good CFO. So I think that's going to be an important decision that whether it be this board or the next board is going to be faced with hiring someone who's competent, who's capable of handling a budget of this size. We also need a good superintendent, and that's going to be something that we have to prioritize, whether it be this board or the next board. So we have to have those two pieces in place for the financial responsibility. And then we have to make the hard decisions. And as Marie said, it's going to be not one hard decision. It's going to be many hard decisions that are going to have to come down month after month. And we have to be willing to do the hard work, make decisions that are rooted in data, not emotional decisions. We have to be willing to make hard decisions. We listen and we educate ourselves and we look at the facts before we make those decisions. But it's going to require a strong board that's willing to look at the hard numbers. And we know that the enrollment's declining. We know that population's declining. We know that vouchers are taking some of our money. Private schools are taking some of our money. So we have to maybe come up with some creative solutions of how we counter that and be proactive in making some decisions that will set us up better for the future.
Thank you so much. Our next candidate is Stephanie.
Hello again. Okay, so everyone has already mentioned the schools, but I also want to jump in on the difficulty after this year's budget. I think the most important thing and the most difficult thing is going to be to say no to the unsustainable commitments. Even when they're popular or well-intentioned, we need to rebuild trust in many ways, and that means bringing everything into public light, talking about it thoroughly during the meetings. And there's going to be a lot of public pressure, whoever ends up on the board, to fix everything really fast. And so I think over the next 2 years, whatever it is, there's a real risk of moving too fast to try and accommodate everybody. And as good intentioned as we are, and we want everyone to have what they need, I think there's going to be a real risk that there's not enough foresight going into things. There's, pressure to fix everything immediately, and that just won't happen. So it does mean saying no sometimes, and that's going to be very difficult. That could mean pausing or delaying non-essential initiatives. So we need to focus core, student-facing staff, rebuilding the EC program with more staff, more support. And that's my personal, because our kid is involved in it. And so that's a big, hit point for me. And we need to avoid any more across the board cuts that can cause long-term harm. Trust has broken not just with the community, with the budget, but also with teachers. It's hard to gather and retain and hire new teachers when people are going to be scared this is going to happen again. And so I think moving forward at a slower pace, making sure that we have all the information, the spreadsheets are out there. I'm with Emma. I'm a spreadsheet gal. I want to see everything on a table so I can, make an informed choice. And we need to make sure that we have money reserved for backups if needed.
Thank you. I want to thank our candidates for spending their time with us today, illuminating their platforms and how they would serve our community if elected to the Forsyth County or Winston-Salem Forsyth County School Board. Thank you so much and have a nice night.